Welcome back to the A to Z Film Room channel. I am Joe DeLeone, and today we have a very special episode with an expanded cast. We've got Kyle Krabs, we've got Travis May, and of course, Ryan Roberts, the usual, with us. We are going to be doing a very fun project today. We are going to be doing a fantasy draft for the 2026 NFL draft. Depending on players that we select and where they are drafted, we will earn various point allotments. That is going to be up on the screen for you to check out what the point totals are based on where a player is selected. Ultimately, the goal is to prove that we can project which guys will get drafted the highest at each position. Let's move into, guys, let's get right into it, because I've been chomping at the bit to start this draft for some time now. Kyle, you are the first person on the board with pick 1. What direction do you want to go in?
Obviously thought about making a big swing at the quarterback position, but I trust some of the depth here that I'm going to have options that get drafted early with how this quarterback class projects itself out. So I'm going to go with a player who doesn't have a ton of snaps, but I think just based off the film that I've watched, has the most robust film at what has become a premium position. I'm taking Peter Woods, the defensive lineman from Clemson, with the first pick here. Man, I just think he is everything you possibly want from a point of attack skills perspective, what he's capable of as a disruptor, the positional mobility that he has within the front. I think he's a really clean projection. The question is just, can we get more than 395 snaps in a season here and really let him off the chain? Because I think if you do that, he is going to be an absolute monster, and he's young. He's going to be 21 on draft day if he comes out next year.
Yeah, I think everybody here is already annoyed that you pulled off the Peter Woods steal. Nobody thought that I'm sure was going to be the first pick, but great selection. I like the logic, and the stratagem always ends up being with these drafts is trying to get the guys at the positions where there's a little bit uncertainty. So I'm up here at pick 2, guys. I'm going to take Jeremiyah Love, the running back from Notre Dame. And my reason for that is, sure, maybe there could be a riser like Nick Singleton who pushes into the end of the first round. But I think there's a pretty big gap right now at running back. I think that there is a gap for who is capable of going in that first round. I'm not going to miss that opportunity. And for anyone who's watched Jeremiyah Love, who's watched his channel, this guy is super explosive. He is a home run threat every single time he touches the rock. The NFL is enamored by that explosiveness that he brings to the table. If he's healthy, he has a season where he plays 90% of the games without any real issues, kind of unlike last year. I don't think that there's going to be much of a challenge for him being that first running back selected and the only one going in the first round.
Woods, who I know Ryan was high on, and then Notre Dame running back. I'm sure Ryan's over the moon.
Brutal.
Man, it's just such a gap potentially. I mean, well, defensive tackle we have a conversation with, but like running back, I just think there's a gap between running back 1 and whoever you perceive to be running back 2 in this class, right? So like that's where it gets tricky. I'm gonna go here with where I think there's another gap from 1 to 2, and I'm gonna go Caleb Downs, the safety out of Ohio State. I think there's a couple really intriguing safeties in this class that maybe I'll mention later after people make their picks, so I don't kind of ruin my thought process on some of the other guys. But I do think Caleb Downs is the foregone conclusion safety 1 in this class as of today, and I think that he's, based upon his bloodlines and his background and his production, like he seems like a pretty safe bet to going very early in this draft, and I don't think there's a safety that's like a slam dunk first rounder right now.
Wow, man, I regret putting myself going fourth in this in the draft now, because you guys just went, hey, let's just go for all of the positions of scarcity. You actually approached this. Not surprised that you guys made the right decision to go after the players that were kind of the no-brainers, but it gives me a tough decision here, because there's like 3 or 4 positions that I do feel like there's some sort of drop-off, but not that same level of drop-off. Like Caleb Downs is supposed to be probably a top 5 pick in this coming draft. And Jeremiyah Love might be a top 10, top 15 pick, and then there might be a half round or even more break at that position, just kind of like we saw this past year. And then Peter Woods, kind of the same thing. There's a couple that might ascend, but kind of going out on a limb here and just saying, look, this guy's probably not going to go and be a top 10 pick. but I'm not sure how many off-ball linebackers are going to go very early in most any NFL drafts. And so I'm going to go with Anthony Hill Jr., a linebacker out of Texas. Really huge fan of his game, and he's been a huge part also of Texas's success on the recruiting front. And he and Colin Simmons, the star freshman edge rusher from last year, but he was a true freshman All-American, came out and was one of the best players on the team right away. Struggled at times in coverage situations last year, but I think he takes one more step, takes his game to an elite level, and he could be a top of the first round pick next spring. So that's not as great of a pick, I think, as you guys just made, but that's probably where I'm going here. So I'm going to go Anthony Hill Jr. to end the first round. And then, actually, I have another pick because we're doing snake-style draft here. So, there are a few other positions, like I said, that there's a drop-off. But I don't know how many cornerbacks I'm really sure are going to be early picks next year. And maybe there's some health questions here, but given the just true shutdown outside corner ability of Jermod McCoy out of Tennessee, I'm going to go there because I think that he, out of the corners that I could go with here, I'm really not sure. There's several, I'm not going to name them all because then you'll steal them, but there's a handful of cornerbacks that could be in the mix for first round capital, but not a ton of pure outside shutdown guys that also are smart enough to find the right spots and zones to make those big interceptions and other fantastic plays that we saw him put together last year. So I think he could rise and be a top 7 or 8 pick when it's all said and done. Takes one more step forward. So going for that scarcity strategy, just hoping that you guys don't snipe me in the next 2 rounds as well.
Well, I'm not going to be picking corner for a while now. That's nice.
No.
That was my guy, by the way. Jermod McCoy was going to be my next pick if it was not selected there. I know that the knee issue, him coming off, is a concern, obviously, but what he did last year, 19 years old in the SEC, was bananas, right? The transfer from Oregon State to Tennessee. Joe, a kid that I'm higher on actually than you are, but I know the NFL is very high on, at least early spring grades and some scouts I've talked to. I'm going to take Keldrick Falk, defensive ends out of Auburn. That's going to be my selection here. There's other guys that are going to be firmly in that conversation, right? Both on the edge and on the interior. But I feel very good about the NFL valuing a 6'6", 288-pound guy that moves as well as this guy does. He can win outside track. He can reduce down in obvious passing situations. He can play for multiple alignments. Keldrick Falk, I think, is a pretty easy first rounder, barring some setback or injury.
He's absolutely the highest floor. So you're not going to get any fight from me on Keldrick Falk. He was one of the highest guys in both of our edge rankings. I know he was your edge one. I'm kind of grappling with here getting the chance to be the guy who takes the first quarterback or the first offensive lineman, but I can't help but hyper-focus on how few draftable linebackers they're like. Sorry, let me rephrase that. Draftable in this context. I don't really feel comfortable with the linebacker group this year because there's a lot of questions. And I was shocked. I was ready, Travis, for you to take C.J. Allen. So I'm going to go with C.J. Allen here, the linebacker from Georgia. I am such a big fan of his. I don't know for certain if he ends up being a first rounder, but I feel like his overall play style and his instincts are so translatable that he'll be one of the first 3 linebackers selected in 2026. With a lot of uncertainty on guys that have traits but need to take a step forward, I'm going to go with the one dude who has the best instincts. So I'm going to take C.J. Allen.
Are you actually saying that you would put Allen closer to Hill than, let's say, the rest of the linebacker field?
Just where I think that drop-off is at, right, Joe?
Yeah, I mean, I would put C.J. Allen ahead of... I have C.J. Allen, I have a tier break, and then I have Anthony Hill. I think Anthony Hill's a great athlete, and I think that he could do this, the Jahad Campbell type of a rise with good testing, but I don't know. I'm just not totally there with him going in the first round. But he's a good player.
Wrestling with the same things that Joe was as far as tapping into unpicked rooms. But I think the first thing that I want to do is I'm going to go with finish my defensive line and get my edge player. And it's a guy who was not as good last year as he was as a freshman, but has marquee traits, density, explosiveness, has the ability to line up all over the front, especially what he did as a freshman in 23. Ruben Bain from Miami. I'm going to make him my pick here. Really buying on what I think if he plays to his potential and gets back to that true freshman version in 2023, I think he can really be a player that gets coveted because of at the mass, and he's a little bit shorter. He's not the tallest guy, but that creates like that dense, powerful build. And a lot of times you see those guys that have that density when they come in and rush the passer, it gives them that natural leverage. And I think that's a big tool in his bag to be able to have a translatable pass rush skill set.
You know what's kind of crazy is we're picking what number are we at now? We're at pick 9.
That was 8.
And no
9.
No
now.
quarterback has been taken, which is interesting. But I agree with your initial sentiment on that, Kyle, is that it's kind of a broad grouping up top at quarterback, right? So like I think that there's a few different avenues and a few different ways that you could potentially go. Just a quick observation there. So
I can tell you from my perspective in putting my board together for this exercise, I had 6 quarterbacks down that like I'm comfortable with any of the 6. So spoiler, I'm not going to go quarterback here at 9 either. I'm going to use the same logic I had at number 1. Like I see other potential scarcity drop-offs that I don't want to be caught holding the bag with the 4th offensive lineman. So because of that, I'm going to go Spencer Fano, the offensive tackle from Utah, and I'm going to make him my pick here with my 3rd choice. All trenches here. Generally, thought process, you saw what that looked like this past year with how teams drafted the trenches. I'm leaning into it with my choices here. It was between him and one other offensive tackle, but I'll go with Fano from Utah.
Joe, can I tell my quick story about Fano and Lomu? Can I tell my quick story here?
Yes, go ahead.
Once upon a time, a person that used to cover just strictly Notre Dame recruiting may have recommended both of those players for Notre Dame to go after, and I was told that they were not good enough to play at Notre Dame. But yeah, that's a conversation for another day, I suppose. Yeah,
That's rough. That is really rough. Oh, man.
Well, so on that note, you've already set up perfectly my next pick, Ryan. Yeah, I don't want to be caught being the guy who's picking the 4th offensive lineman. I am praying to you if you end up in that situation. There's some decent interior options that we could maybe end up going with, but there's a lot of projection that comes with the back end of that group. I'm going to take Caleb Lomu. He's my OT1. He's a guy that I've just been so excited about. And I think for the exercise of trying to lay down more bunts than trying to swing for the fences in order to win this thing, I have failed many a times against Ryan by trying to swing for the fences. I want to go with the guy that's got the higher floor. He's got really good instincts. He is very fluid and easy moving in pass protection. He might not be OT1 when the 2026 NFL draft ends up happening, but I would feel pretty strongly that by the 20th pick, he's probably going to be off the board, assuming he does declare. So I'm going to go with Caleb Lomo.
Okay. I am swinging for the fences on the next one, Joe. Swinging here, buddy. Caleb Banks, defensive tackle, Florida, please.
Damn it.
I just... Peter Woods is interior defensive lineman 1 for me. Agree 100% with Kyle on that first pick. I do think for me, though, right now, it's Caleb Banks 2, and I think that there is a tier break after Caleb Banks. He's 6'6" and an eighth, I think was his NFS measurement, 333 pounds, 34-plus inch arms. The flashes are incredible. He's an incredibly gifted player just from a movement perspective. He's scheme diverse. He can play in an even or an odd man front. I just find it hard to believe that that kid is not heavily valued. And he's got good spring grades as well, at least relatively speaking, this time of year. So Caleb Banks, interior defensive lineman 2 to finish my defensive line class here.
Wow. Okay. Well, I didn't get sniped. I thought we were just going to go straight offensive lineman, and I was going to be that guy that was left with the 4th offensive lineman. Although I will say, I'm not actually sure which direction that we're going. I've paid attention to the show. I know that you guys are really, really hyped up on Lomu. I don't necessarily have him as a locked-in top 4 option for me. So when that happened, I was like, okay, that's interesting. So yeah, I think that kind of changes.
Change your strategy on the fly, didn't you? You had
you guys just kind of screwed me up.
We just screwed you up so bad right there.
You did, but that's okay. That's okay. Let's just go with. I'm going to go with TJ Parker, the edge rusher, Clemson. what he's done in terms of his elite level rate stats, he's not like through the roof already to the point where like, oh my gosh, he's got back-to-back 20% pass rush pressure rate numbers or anything like that. But he's been really consistent for the most part. He's got a crazy high motor. He's got that finish that makes it looks like somebody's about to die because he just hit him so hard. And so I think that kind of player with all the tools, with sufficient pressure and havoc rates and all the nerdy stuff that you guys know I care about. And then I think he's done enough in terms of the raw sack totals that people that are into counting stats are going to go, okay, that's not a terrible pick, Travis. I'm not going to put something in the comments making fun of that guy. So why not? I'm going to go with TJ Parker here off the edge for Clemson. And it's crazy, by the way, how many good players Clemson has this year. Like I was going through building the big board here, and I was like, man, there are several positions with guys I really like at Clemson. And again, that's another show, but man, they're really stacked this year at the very top, at some of the most important positions, I think, in today's game. But I am actually going to go ahead and get an offensive tackle here. And maybe it's not actually who you guys have up next, but I'm going to go with Isaiah World, the guy who is the size of the freaking world. Like he's like I think he's like 8'7", something like that. I think that's his verified height. He's a monstrous guy. Transferred in from Nevada. I don't know how he is at Nevada with the measurables that he had. Comes in, is going to be the guy for a really good offensive line this year at Oregon, and I think he's going to be a first-round pick next year. So I don't know where you guys rank him, but I am curious where you would slate World, and if I did, hopefully snipe someone.
He was offensive tackle too for me, so he probably would have been. Actually, no, he wouldn't have been my. I'm actually.
Yeah, I know who Ryan's going to take.
I know who I'm going to take at offensive tackle, and I mean nobody else has an offensive lineman left, so I'm not taking him now, obviously, because there's no leverage to me taking him now. But I will be taking Drew Shelton from Penn State at some point. Joe, you can like pencil that in on the last pick if you want. I mean, like I'm going to wait now for an offensive tackle. I don't have any pressing need there.
Interesting.
But yeah, that'll be my guy. I am a big fan of Drew Shelton when that comes up. He has very high spring grades as well. Again, spring grades taken with a grain of salt. Things change. Some bad grades out there, blah, blah, blah. But I'm comfortable with him at that last pick. But, man, I'm a little conflicted here. So I want to wait on tight end.
I'm kind of blown away by the maneuver you just pulled by projecting your last pick. I don't think anyone in the history of drafts
no one can
has
jump
ever
on me
done
on
that.
him. Everybody picked offensive line.
I understand that nobody can take him, but like I don't think anyone doing a draft has ever accomplished what you just did. You skipped all of your picks.
I'm trying to break ground here, sir. I'm trying to break ground.
Okay. Go ahead.
Wide receiver tight end is so weird because it's so wide open at both spots, I think, right? Like there's a tight end that I prefer at the top, but like you could convince me that it goes to several different ways. I'm actually going to get the third linebacker off the board here, I guess, Joe. Ready? So I know it's a guy that you like a lot. I'm going to go with Sonny Styles, the linebacker out of Ohio State. So that's going to be my selection here. 6'4" and a hair. He is about 240 pounds. He has experience playing safety for Ohio State early in his career. First year as an off-ball linebacker in 2024. Still managed to go over 100 tackles, over 10 tackles for loss. The kid is going to test out of this world. So I think that he is... I'd be surprised if he's not at least a high-end second-round option, if not sneaking into the back end of the first round. So I'll take Sonny Styles there for the linebacker conversation.
You did a really good job of alluding to what I was thinking of doing for my upcoming pick. Receiver, there's like 5 guys that we could name that could be the first round or the first receiver selected or just in the first round conversation.
Is anybody going to take a tight end, by the way? Like I'm like thinking in my mind.
That's what I'm going to do. I actually feel more secure about Max Clare from Ohio State than I do from taking one of these receivers who I don't know if they're going to declare. I don't know if they're going to live up to their potential. So I'm going to take Max Clare. I feel pretty secure about him. I think that for how productive he was in an atrocious Purdue offense, getting a chance to catch the ball alongside Jeremiah Smith and from Oh yeah, aren't you a Boilermaker? Sorry.
Aren't you a Boilermaker? Yeah, man.
Hey, I mean,
Yeah,
on the
let's make sure we draft all the players that transferred out of Purdue.
Yes.
That were their best players in this. Yeah,
strategy.
I was going to say, I mean, across college football this year, you're going to see a lot of former Boilermakers playing for some really good programs. So there you go.
Yeah, just not Purdue. That's how that rolls. They're really good. They're basically a G5 program at this point, so it's okay.
All right, well, I've been holding my breath here for the last 2 picks because you guys have been teasing pass catchers. I will go with a wide receiver. I'll go with Jordan Tyson from Arizona State. Really like the size profile. There's inside-outside flexibility for playing in the slot and playing on the perimeter. I think you see enough physicality to get off a press. Interested to see. It sounds like he's added a little bit of weight this offseason. I think that could really translate his game and kick him up into another gear. So I'm going to make Tyson the first wide receiver off the board here for my pass catcher.
Yeah, not to let the cat out of the bag because we haven't done wide receiver big board yet, but Jordan Tyson is also wide receiver 1 for me. So it's a good pick.
So this is my, third chance to start a round with a quarterback.
Are you going to?
I think I'm going to do it.
Are you going to?
Might as well
I think
not.
I'm going to do it. I'll kind of create a little bit of urgency here because I'm locked in with linebacker. I could do the Ryan thing and tell you guys who I'm going to take at linebacker, but I'll keep the suspense for when we actually get to the end of the draft with the 8th round. And what am I locked in on DBs too, or am I? I guess Joe, you've also got one. Okay, so I'm going to go quarterback here, and I'm going to go with a guy who I think has the best blend of skills in which I don't think the season goes sideways and he goes back to school. I'm going to go with Klubnik, and I'm going to make him the pick here. That Clemson offense, that Clemson team as a whole has a whole bunch of talent on it. I think Klubnik really finished the year strong last year. I think he's got a nice blend of traits. He's got plenty of passing ability. Sellers is the big traits guy, but if the traits don't take another jump, I could see him coming back to school potentially, and I don't want to be caught in that position. So I feel better about Klubnik as the choice here for there's some traits with athleticism, outside structure potential, but also not the lower band outcomes that I think would kind of leave me holding a pretty nasty stinker of a pick.
I think that's the right move. Klubnik was who I was like seriously battling with this whole time of like, if I go quarterback first, do I take him? He's the senior. Him or Nussmeier would fit into that debate. I don't like touching Allar in this spot because he's
way to let the
far
cat
more
out of the
boomer
bag on
bust.
other quarterback options, man. Is this not a fantasy
I'm
draft?
just stop it. You know what? I'm gonna go with my quarterback here because I want to be able to secure one of these guys that I think is Kyle, you did a really good job of describing this of like Sellers is intriguing, but he's so young. Fernando Mendoza is intriguing, but I don't think it's a guarantee that he declares. I'm going to take Garrett Nussmeier. I know Ryan's probably rolling his eyes. I can see him smirking in the bottom corner of the screen right now. I know that Nussmeier Nussmeier isn't to me the guy who's going to end up being like the second or maybe even first quarterback selected. But I know he's declaring, so I'm not getting screwed over by the ambiguity of declarations. And I think that his floor is high enough that he's going to go somewhere on day 2. So I'm laying down the fattest bunt possible at quarterback, and I'll let you guys take the chances of going with one of these young guys.
Okay. All right.
Ryan, do you want to trash him first or no?
No, if you want to do it real quick, I can move on to the next pick.
No. I just want to say it's not that Garrett Nussmeier's a bad quarterback, and I think I'm not sure that you're even saying necessarily that he's the quarterback 2 for you. He's just safer for this purpose.
No, he's QB4 for me. I don't love him. Okay. I'm not a fan.
Okay. Well, then I think to me he doesn't offer a ton of upside with his legs. He was good for the first half of the year at least at avoiding pressure. Kind of got a little dicey down the stretch, but gets a little bit too YOLO ballish at times and can force it where it doesn't need to go. But I think he was propped up at times by some of the volume stats last year in terms of his raw touchdowns and yardage and things like that made him look even better than he really was. But we can quickly forget that he was not a super veteran starter with 3 years of experience behind him, like full season starting. So maybe he does take that step forward, but I don't think he's quite there yet. And I have him outside of my top 4 for sure.
Well, so that's my whole logic with this is that, like, and we just put out our quarterback rankings video for anyone who wants to go check that out. I think he's got the arm, and then you talked about how he handles pressure is where Ryan and I kind of put our hands up and go, like, let's take a step back before we jump in on the QB1 combo.
Especially the Florida game, man. The Florida game was rough with that.
Yeah, that was a tough one. But I think for what the NFL always falls into the trap, coach's son, he's been around for a long time, like all of those goofy things is enough for him to be a second-round pick. Like, I kind of feel that he could end up going in the first round because somebody's going to talk themselves into it for all of those reasons. Like the Steelers, if they're picking at the end of the first round, they're going to be desperate.
And I know New Orleans just drafted Tyler Shuck, but Dad's on the staff there in New Orleans, and I don't know that I would consider Shuck with the durability stuff. If he doesn't have a great season, they could very easily be right back in that pool all over again.
Yeah,
Nuss is younger than him too, which is crazy.
Everyone's younger than him, Joe. He's like 40. What are we talking about, man?
Okay,
I'm just kidding, obviously, but yeah, I mean, no, it's a good point. Funny enough, I just wrote an article with Adam Holt from A to Z Sports yesterday about the Tyler Shuck like second round debate right now of like should he, because he's pushing for a fully guaranteed contract, but like Kyle, you bring up a good point of like he had one truly healthy season in 7 years in college, right? Yeah. Like there's a leverage point on both sides of like probably not a good idea to sign the guy to a fully guaranteed contract, but that's probably a different podcast potentially. But Joe, running back 2, Nick Singleton, running back Penn State. So who's my pick going to be here? Jeremiyah Love's running back 1 to me. Bias aside, even on that one. But I'm looking at like my running back rankings that we already did on the podcast, and there were guys that I like. Like I like Le'Veon Moss a lot. I think Quentin Joyner, the USC transfer to Texas Tech, could be a big riser in this class potentially. But right now, I feel like Singleton is running back 2 by default, and it sounds like I'm saying like he's a high floor, low ceiling guy. I mean, he's also 220 pounds and probably going to run high 4.3, right? So like he's not like this non-toolsy kid that has no upside that he can bring to the table either. Right now, I think he is very in a good spot to be at least running back 2 in this class potentially, and I mean that's probably a borderline first round pick potentially. So yeah, let's go Singleton, second running back off the board.
Man, that's really rough.
Was that where you're going? That's where you're going?
That couldn't have gone possibly worse for my strategy here. And at this point, it's probably impossible for those watching to realize the predicament that I'm in. But no matter what I pick, I'm setting one of you up to just do what you guys have already done. Like, oh, well, I can just wait on this position at the end of the draft. Because every position I haven't taken already has 2 picks made, so I'll be the third one. So anyway. So game theory, I'm really screwed here. So sorry for teeing whoever gets the freebie pick here at the end of the draft based on what I'm doing here. But I'm just gonna go with Drew Allar at quarterback. I don't sound excited probably, and it's not that so I would say that there are imperfections with this game, but what he does offer are plenty of tools, requisite mobility that I'm not afraid that that's going to be a problem at the next level. But he's got all the arm talent, he's got the size, he's the big dude, and he actually has now, as of last year, one really good season by the meaningful metrics, and that does matter in today's day and age. We've seen more and more teams lean into data-driven decision making when it comes to the quarterback position. It's not just the traits. It's great to have those traits. It's great that you want to swing for the next Josh Allen, but you might accidentally swing and get the next Anthony Richardson when you go that route. And so it's a balance. But what he's done is put together a season where he kind of checked a lot of the boxes when it comes to things like total adjusted net yards per pass attempt, EPA per play numbers, his first down per play numbers, his yards per play, his everything per play numbers across the board that generally lead to and translate to and help predict NFL success at the most important position. He actually has those in terms of not elite level numbers. It wasn't Cam Ward numbers last year. It wasn't Jackson Dart numbers, sorry guys, from last year. But it was really close to what we saw out of a typical first round pick. So if he does take one more step with a wide receiver room that might have 1 or 2 competent players in it, maybe 3, then I would say he's in a really good spot to get early round draft capital next year. So I'm going to go with Drew Allar there. So I'm gifting. I guess I'm gifting Ryan. You can just pencil in your quarterback even later.
No, don't let him do it. Don't let him do that. By the way, also Travis, don't listen to the rant that Ryan had about Drew Allar on the quarterback show.
I said that he's going to go early. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
I literally said he's going to go early.
That's what makes it a good pick.
Yeah, it's a good pick. Yeah, he's going to be a first round pick. Like, it's going to happen. I'm fully yes, it's going to happen. Sure.
And then I'm going to go with wide receiver and get Carnell Tate, because Carnell Tate is an absolute baller. I know that Jeremiah Smith is on true GOAT trajectory based off of what he did as a true freshman, and just like Ibuka this year, who was overlooked for being the second fiddle to all pro type projection players. Carnell Tate is going to ball this year. He's going to continue to rise and get better. And I think we forget that all these high pedigree guys, they come in and they compete against the best of the best in the country. And then somehow there's always 1 or 2 that break out pretty early. And those are the ones that have success in the NFL. The ones that break out alongside all these other future All-Pros, all these other future first-round picks. And really from day one, back to Carnell Tate's spring game, he was like, okay, I'm the best guy here in my class, and I'm going to ascend, and I'm going to win. And he's earned a role. He earned a role in year 1. He earned a significant role in year 2. And now it's just going to be him and the Jeremiah Smith show all this year. So if we're projecting potential first-round wide receivers, I like to lean on the idea that Ohio State might have one.
It's very sound thinking, and obviously he's got the pedigree for who his coach is, right? Which matters, 100% matters. So, yeah, I think that's a safe pick, too, right? Like, Carnell Tate going pretty high seems pretty like a safe assumption, too. So, yeah. Joe, I'm having a wide receiver debate in my mind. Do you know who it's between? We haven't done a wide receiver show, so I don't know if you know who it's between.
No, I don't know who you like at wide receiver.
So I'm still debating in my head, so I'm going to wait on it. I'm just going to go to LaNorris Sellers, quarterback from South Carolina, for now. I understand that there's multiple years of eligibility, so it makes it a gamble. I mean, there's obviously you guys took all senior quarterbacks, right? Yeah, all seniors across the board. So there's not much volatility there for you. So I am the gamble here. But as you said, Travis, there are quarterbacks that are mistakes at the top of the drafts. You mentioned Anthony Richardson. Some other guys, obviously, are that similar style player. But they still went early, right? So if we're projecting to go early, I feel good about the NFL valuing the 6'3", 242-pound dude who's a freaky athlete, who has a cannon for an arm, and has a lot of upside. So some projection here at quarterback, but at this point, got to kind of take a swing at the fence.
All right. I am grossed out by the available defensive tackles. There is not a lot to pick from because there's just a lot of projection here. We did our defensive tackle ranking show, and we talked about this, how all these guys left in a historic year at DT, so it creates this void. I'm going to lean into one thing that the NFL has proven time and time again, that they are predictable in the sense of they're going to value SEC defensive linemen and especially guys that come from Georgia. I am really high on Christian Miller. He is my number 2 defensive tackle. I'm higher, I think, than most people are, but there's a little bit of projection with him. I'm going to lean into knowing that there are some NFL teams that will make selections like this and build their boards based on the fact that this guy is coming from a historically good defensive tackle developing program, very similar to what you just did, Travis. I love this idea of just knowing that it's likely that Miller comes out and is one of just the names in the top 10 at DT when there's so many directions that could be gone in here.
All right, so 6 and 1 hand half dozen for another me. I got running back and DB because I've already committed to the bit and doing the linebacker with the last pick based off of the last pass through. I'm gonna go with Mansour DeLeone, corner, transfer from Virginia Tech to LSU. Not the most traitsy guy. Like, I don't think he's got great raw speed. He's a little bit more lean framed, but he's got great instincts, in my opinion, in coverage. And the transfer opportunity to LSU, I feel like my floor is probably a mid-round pick here, but I think he can play himself upwards if he plays well. So I'll go with DeLeone as my defensive back choice here. to close the 6th round. Starting the 7th round is running back for me, and I'm wrestling with, do I go boom or bust on a young guy? Do I draft somebody who's got great production? And I'll give this tease that if I was going to go last with quarterback, I was going to strongly consider John Mateer at Oklahoma. And I think the benefit of Mateer at quarterback and what that can mean for Jaden Ott, who also transferred in, I think he has the chance to maybe have a nice bounce back. So I'm going to go with Ott as my choice here at the running back position.
Interesting. Yeah, man. And Cal's going to miss him. I know last year he wasn't himself, but man, that could be a really good pick because what he did
2 years ago,
dating back, he's like a true freshman, and yeah, he was just incredible from day one.
Mm-hmm. He's going to run fast.
That's the type of guy.
He's going to run really fast.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
For all those reasons, that's like the right running back to take a swing on. Of he's probably going to be a part of the class. He's probably going to declare, and they're going to need to run the ball. Like they're going to need to get production out of him. I'm going to go DB here, and I'll end up taking edge, which ends up being one of the most talented position groups in this draft. I'm going to go with a DB. I was debating if I want to go Dylan Thieneman or if I wanted to go with one of these corners, and I think that Thieneman's going to be a good prospect. Oregon's done a good job of getting a lot of these guys to stick around, so that makes me have some pause. I'm going to take Damani Jackson from Alabama. I know that he's not everybody's cup of tea, but he is mine. I have a first-round grade on him. I think that he is just so fluid. He's got great length, does everything for me that I look for in a corner that ends up projecting to becoming a first-rounder. So I'm going to go with Damani Jackson.
You just had to bring up another Purdue player who left, by the way. You're not even drafting him. You're like, hey, Travis.
Yeah, I'm gonna do that.
you want to talk about Cole Brevard, the D tackle that transferred down to Texas next? Yeah. Do that? Yeah.
Will Help going to Clemson. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Love Will Help. Here's the biggest dart throw of the draft, I think, and we're going to do it. I'm going to go with Chris Bell, the wide receiver from Louisville here.
Whoa.
Yes.
That's interesting.
Yes. My man is verified 6'1.5", 227 pounds, and I think he might run 4.4 flat.
Yeah, that's like AJ Brown profile. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, and I think he's going to run 4.4 flat. Like he is lightning. You see some after catch stuff last year at Louisville. You see some RPO stuff. Just his ability in space for being as big as he is. He erases angles, and I've gotten some feedback in the NFL, and I know at least 2 teams that have pretty high grades on Chris Bell. So it's a little bit of a dart throw because he doesn't have the production background right now. He only had like 600-something yards last year. But now being wide receiver 1 for Louisville, now that Brooks is gone, Ja'Cory Brooks, I think that Bell could have a huge year. So that's a dart throw, but I'm betting on traits with that one. So we'll see.
Yeah, because I wouldn't say that that's necessarily consensus that he'll even be, like right now, according to all the mock drafts and all the rankings and all this early stuff, that's not necessarily on everyone's radar, but that's somebody that, given the traits, could certainly rise up into that mix.
So since there's no other wide receiver, nobody needs a wide receiver. My other guy that I was thinking of, so I had 3 options there actually, which is why I was wrestling in my mind. Chris Bell was the swing. Eric Singleton from Auburn, the Georgia Tech transfers, a swing. He's a smaller swing, right? Like he's probably 176 pounds, 177 pounds. So like some teams are going to look at him a little differently. My other guy, this was a surprising one, Joe. I don't know if you watched this guy, but Joe Royer, the tight end out of Cincinnati, was going to be like my high floor pick of like potentially being like a
I know you like
midday 2 pick, right? Where it's just like, okay, he's not going to be a first round pick, but just to get that floor conversation. So I chose to do the ceiling conversation, and it's summer scouting, so I feel okay with doing the ceiling thing. We'll see.
Okay, well, I like almost all of my draft so far, but the problem is I think I'm running out of players given the positions that I'm looking at that are even remotely in first round discussion. We'll see, but I am curious to see if anybody was considering Mekhi Hughes, running back Oregon, and where he would actually stack up, because what he's done, I know it was at Tulane, but what he's done has been really impressive through the last couple of years, like 3,000 yards from scrimmage or so in the last two years, and he's in good position to put up ridiculous numbers this year for Oregon too. So I would say that his burst, his ability to shed tackles for a guy of his particular build. I think it's impressive. I think he hasn't been used as like a crazy high volume wide receiver yet, so I don't know how that's going to work at Oregon. Maybe he will, but I would say that he projects as the next best to me. We've got Jeremiyah Love off the board, Nick Singleton off the board, and to me, that's like those are the only two that are like yes, in the mix for first round capital next year as of right now. And Jaden Ott is up there in that mix. We could talk about Justice Haynes if he puts it together at Michigan, a handful of other players. If we could, just really project. But overall, Mekhi Hughes feels like one of the only other safe-ish guys for day 2 capital to me at this point.
No, I love that. I think, again, like you're trying to find safe projections there, and Hughes has been one of the easier, he's one of the easier watches where you just know, like, oh, this guy fits. This guy fits for a team in the NFL. At the very least, he's going to be somewhere in the middle of the draft. There's no guess on like, hey, is this going to be translatable? So I like Hughes a lot. I think he's a pretty good name to include.
Yeah, I had to. I could have gone a couple other directions, but I felt really good about getting that value in the 7th round, I guess. And at this point, man, there's really not any defensive tackles that I'm like, oh yeah, that's my guy.
I'm praying for you on this, man.
Seriously, this was the one position I hated to wait on, and I think I got sniped on twice. Yes, the first round we all got sniped. Thank you, Kyle. But then when you took Caleb Banks, Ryan, in round 3, I was like, great. Well, even though I thought you guys were going offensive line direction, I was like, maybe one of these picks could be my defensive tackle. Nope, missed out on Banks, and so I was like, well, it doesn't even matter at this point. And Joe took the Georgia play, which was safe. I'm going to go with a guy who's year 5, school 3, health questions from like a year ago, and there are questions, but Darrell Jackson Jr., Florida State defensive tackle, he's a monstrous person. Like, he's 6'5", 340-ish at this point. Yeah. But big dude. At the same time, he has that monstrous size. He somehow has, I wouldn't say it's bend, because I don't think anybody can actually truly bend at that size, but he has enough to break through and create havoc. And so when you look at his key rate stats, he really jumps off the page. If you're talking about his pressure rate, if you're talking about his actual havoc numbers, across the board, really impressive. So for those who aren't familiar with what's standard by like defensive tackles, and not all defensive tackle techs are created equal in terms of rushing the passer, so it's going to be different numbers. But normally, defensive tackles only see like 6-7%. 8% in terms of their pass rush pressure rate across the board. The best of the best get to 10%. But when you talk about Darrell Jackson Jr., he actually had over 12% of the time that he was rushing the passer, he brought a pressure. And so that's really impressive. And if you're talking about the other plays that you're creating negative, like tackles for loss, forcing fumbles, all these other things, batting passes down, all those things that go into havoc rates, that's actually a little bit lower in terms of positional average. And yet, so he's over double the positional average at his pressure rate, and he's almost double his havoc rate across the board. And so doing that, I know it's year 4, so he's filled out, he's pro ready, but really impressive already. And if he does that again, I think NFL teams are going to look around and go, yeah, let's get that 6'5", 340-pound monster and maybe take a chance on him in round 2 or 3.
So,
you already made your pick.
I know. Did you want me to
give.
Explain it real quick, or do you just want to skate over it?
No, you already. Okay, you can re-explain it, but you've already explained. This is
when
why
when
I'm
I watched when I watched Drew Shelton, I felt like I was watching Christian Darrisaw the year before he came out of Virginia Tech. I think there's a lot of parallels there. I think he's going to hit a lot of the thresholds that some scouts still value tremendously from an arm length, wingspan, height, weight perspective. I think that he's going to hit all those marks. He's going to be a 2-year starter compared to a 1-year starter after learning under Olu Fashanu for a couple of years. So I like Drew Shelton a lot, and I am, again, okay with taking a gamble, especially here in the 8th round perceived.
I'm going to go with, for my last pick, at edge. I was debating taking R. Mason Thomas because I just freaking love R. Mason Thomas. But just hitting on a player that I know is going to declare because he went back to school this past year, was getting first-round buzz, is highly regarded because he's physically gifted as hell. He's super bendy. He's super bursty. Wasn't productive, but one of his former teammates just got taken in the first round. I'm talking about LT Overton from Alabama. I think his production is going to be so much better this year. I think everything's going to really start to click. And at the very least, if we were talking about him as a mid to late first rounder last draft, such a strong chance that Overton ends up going somewhere at least by the end of the second round if his production doesn't tick up. So I actually don't feel bad about that. This edge group ends up kind of providing a lot of safety.
I was wondering if you were going to go with David Bailey with this.
I was debating him too.
Here. He was within my draftable range for like if I didn't go edge super early. But for my linebacker spot, I'm weighing a couple different guys. Torian York was on the short list. Deontay Lawson, Alabama. Obviously, a lot of experience. I'm going to swing the bat. I'm going to go back to LBU, and I'm a Penn State grad, full disclosure, so I do regard them as linebacker U. I thought about swinging high on Tony Rojas, who made the plays in the late in the season last year as a junior, but undersized, not a great run defender, but coverage ability, right? Is there a specialized role there? But I'm going to go with the transfer in Amari Campbell from North Carolina. A little bit of a risk here, but big-time pass rush productivity as a stack backer. He's got like a 38% pressure rate last year at North Carolina. Think about how Penn State has been able to take some off-ball guys and move them around. He's got a single-digit missed tackle rate, so you see he's not the biggest. He can get a little undisciplined as far as how his form tackling goes versus trying to lay some big sticks. But I'm taking a promising pass rush profile for an off-ball linebacker going to Penn State and what they've been able to do. Swing of the bat here at the end of the draft, we'll see. It was kind of, I didn't really love any of my options as guys that were a little bit more established as draft prospects, so we'll see what happens. But I'm going to go with the Amari Campbell transfer from North Carolina to Penn State.
Yeah, there's a lot of, as you just said there, you kind of get this chance to take those swings and see what ends up panning out. That is going to be it for our fantasy draft for the 2026 NFL draft. Folks, in the comments, I want you to drop who's one guy that you're shocked that we did not pick? Who is one guy that you're like, how did they miss him? Let us know in the comments. Hit that like button and subscribe. We'll talk to you later.